Alrighty, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Okay, so first things first, I haven't even uploaded the first video of this, and I want to talk about that real quick before we get into, of course, our dreamland, fever dream kind of world that we're creating. Also, come up with the name that I'm not so sure about, but I'm hoping you guys will throw me another, but this is the Impossible World podcast. Because to me, I don't think we'll ever talk about a world that's just kind of, like ours. I like different. I like really weird and out there kind of stuff. So yeah, any world that's like I don't think I'll ever tell you guys a world like where it's an army, I don't know, like you're an FBI agent in our world. That's it. It'd be like you're an FBI agent, but you're an immortal, and that's your whole gimmick. And yeah, I don't even know if there's that much to do with in that context. I like things to be like larger than life. So hence the term impossible world, because I don't think we'll ever dabble in like kind of somewhat realism, So yeah, but ladies and gentlemen, I haven't even uploaded the first video yet. So again, I do want to make this a community thing, so I will be sure, hopefully in the next coming parts, whenever I get part 1 up and you guys comment anything, I do want to see that and cherish that, because I've always had these things in my head where I know this thing is not going to be for everyone for sure. I already know that 100%. Even when editing, I was like, there's sometimes these parts that sound like you're listening to a fanfic, like some sort of weird boom, boom, boom kind of thing. And yeah, may absolutely not be for everybody. Like I said, I've been doing this ever since I can remember, constantly thinking of these things. And to a certain degree, I've acknowledged the mental paradox within it. Maybe not wanting to, you spend so much time in this world, you're creating, not so much existing in the present. Believe you me, that's also a negative that I've had to kind of weather that storm for sure. And you have to face reality and all these things. But I've never put it into words. And you guys might be like, well, Grin, don't you have like people that you can tell this to and go over these weird ideas with? And yeah, well, not really. Honestly, a lot of the people around me don't. How do I say it? They're lovely people around me, but they don't exactly have the best. Yeah, how do I say attention? No, I don't want to say that, but yeah, kind of like an attention span. Like they want to get to the next thing. They want to talk about what's going on with them, that kind of thing. So I don't exactly get to fully lay out this thing. I could tell them 2 or 3 things, and I could see they're disinterested, and I'm like, okay, it's just not for you. So I never really had that outlet. And I have never really had to actually put it into words like I have been throughout this podcast. So for me, it's been again, this is one of those things where, again, this could absolutely not be for everybody. It's absolutely for me. I really like doing this. Again, I filmed 2 podcasts, which is quite draining. I know it doesn't really seem it, but especially for a person that does commentaries for a long time, different beast. But yeah, I liked it so much, just expressing this world that I've made. That I wanted to make one right after the other one. And that's also why these are filmed 4 days within their time gap. So that's why maybe because I don't want to make any more to a certain extent. I want to make sure that we get at least 2 or 3 out, and then I can actually address what you guys are saying. Maybe you guys come up with some badass ideas that are absolutely worth mentioning. Also, forgive me for this morning, ladies and gentlemen. We have our cup of the sitting. We are going to be, continuing where we left off, which is, of course, finally, our people coming together. And again, there are some things that I really would like to go back and tweak. Like, for instance, I kind of mentioned it, but when it comes to, let's just call him Crowley. Then I will also call him Demon Boy, but sure. When it comes to the Demon Boy leaving the hospital after the nurse said, fuck off, you're gross, something's wrong with you, get away, kind of thing. Which is funny because she's an angel, so there's a bunch of stuff that's implied. And I kind of do that on purpose because the way I tell the story is through 3 different lenses. Through the lens of, if I were to write a novel about this kind of thing, or if you were to write a novel about this kind of thing, there'd be slowly information being dropped subliminally through common knowledge. Like maybe an angel and a demon just don't vibe, or maybe they do vibe, and that could be a story as well. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of the premise. But then other times, I go completely anime with it, and I just think through the eyes of okay, but if this was an anime, would this be able to be animated well? And I think about the other perception, which is video games. Okay, if this was a video game world, what would be a fun mechanic that people would actually like to play? So that's the mediums I'm bouncing between, because those are the mediums I watch and I really enjoy. So yes. But anyways, mug of the sitting. It's so goddamn bright you can't see. God, it was a mistake wearing a white shirt when filming this, just because of the lighting horror show. Anyways, also feeling quite sick, and it's morning, haven't warmed up yet, so let's gonna be a vocal challenge for us for the first little bit. But ladies and gentlemen, I did want to do some tidy work, because at the final stretch of the last podcast where we were talking about our characters finally meeting together, I was kind of just like, okay, this and this, I'm really tired, this and this. So let's do some tidy work, because I've had some more time to think about it as well. And again, I hit most of the things that I wanted to hit. Again, I tell you guys that there are these pikes that we need to kind of get ourselves to. And again, at any point, if I feel like something is underdeveloped, I can come back to it, or straight up change this arc, or this happen chance, as long as it doesn't really tear everything else apart. But anyways, so we hit our beats, which is basically we need them to come together, we need them to interact, and all that stuff. And I really like the idea of introducing more of the wolf in this instance. So when our main character, he's kind of stumbling around trying to hide his monster eyes or whatever, and then boom, he hears a howl, he stumbles onto the road, and of course that's when our second main character comes and pulls him off, and they both fall on their ass. And then one dude kind of stumbles back, crawls back like, oh shit, am I gonna get like another person yelling at me or screaming at me? And the reason why that is, by the way, is I've kind of jumped by it, but the demon's whole thing is the angrier you are, the more your aura kind of projects. So of course there's this demon guy, and his whole aura seeds distrust. And we'll get into like when we start talking about his nature and stuff, when we start getting into relics. So I feel like that's a good time to open up to that. But yeah, right now, again, if I were writing a story, I would try to keep the readers in suspense for what's for the rules of the world, you know. For you guys who I'm trying to build the world, I'm doing kind of both, trying to tell you guys some rules, but then waiting to explain some things. So if you're like, oh, dude, this has a giant like hole in your whole plan, well, we'll address it later on with a rule or a thought or a reason why. So yeah, it's just that's kind of where I'm at when it comes to explaining it to you guys. But anyways, I like that idea. One of the things I would like to hammer home more is that our main character is trying to hide his monster from the demon person, because I want that to be kind of unveiled when the demon person asks him why he isn't afraid or why he isn't being this way, and then for him to, of course, like, you know, stop slouching over like this while he's talking to him sitting down on the road, and for him to actually like fully show him his monstrous part of himself too, and they share in that same kind of monster part, where they both have these just menacing looking eyes. Also, side thing, I noticed this in editing and it made me kind of feel bad. I gave myself the worst haircut. I cut my own hair, by the way. This is just a side thing, the visual element that's in this as well. It wasn't great. This part, you guys can't see because I was better with gel today, but basically I was trimming my hair and I cut this part off way too much. But also, I have like super coarse hair, like dense Native American hair, like horse hair basically. So when I put gel in it, they lock together and they're very like dense hairs. So you guys can see my scalp sometimes, but that's only if the gel is like locked in there. Like you guys can see now the gel isn't like parting. Although, again, if hair loss ever comes from my ass, I'm just gonna go that route of no fucking hair and beard. I don't think I'll rock it as good as other people, but I'd rather not live in limbo. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to what we were talking about. So yes, our boys have finally come together. And of course, the one dude kind of helps him out. And sure, let's do that. I thought that was something that when I was listening to it back on the podcast, that I could have tweaked as well. Why not let our main character be the anchor to the world? Because let's say that the demon dude lost his phone, or just maybe not lost his phone, but his phone got broke. Let's say that his phone got cracked. When he fell or got hit by that thing that smacked him into the wall at the beginning, when he was at the party and he wiped his face off, found out that he heals a little bit, which again is me from a narrative standpoint trying to see these little tiny buffs that these people have. Also, we got to rescale some things when it comes to the lich and the wolf at a certain point. Anyways, so I want him to basically anchor himself to the world. So he pulls up his phone and they start looking through what's the chaos happening around them. And then Crowley sees all this stuff and he's like, nothing makes sense, this is crazy. And then the main character speaks up and he's like, well, actually, it makes perfect sense. Like, you said you're dressing up as a demon, lo and behold, you're giving off traits of this and that. And maybe somewhere along the line, instead of it executing that way, I really like the idea of Crowley being like this like, fuck, like everything doesn't make sense, and also he's like, well, what exactly am I? Kind of stumbles upon, well, if everyone turned into what they were, I'm a guess a demon now. Great. And then him to kind of slouch down and be like, shit. And then our main character to perk up with sparkly eyes and be like, oh, what kind? And just lose it. And in this chaos of like, or insanity, I guess, Crowley feels comfort within that, because again, when everything around him isn't making sense, there's this one thing that's making perfect sense, but it's crazy because it shouldn't be making sense, but it's just the perfect storm kind of mentality. Anyways, and then the other thing I wanted, another like beat we have to hit, is I would like Crowley to understand his situation, which could further his sorrow for his current situation. I don't mean to shit on this character constantly, but I need to make it make sense why a person that is normally like confident and like suave feels none of these things, because his situation is breaking all those things apart. But they'll come together at a certain point as well. At the end of Hell Knight, he'll get back to who he is, but not without someone else's help guiding him back to who he is, which is this confident mechanic kind of person. Again, very much playing off of Good Omen's weird character type. Anyways, so yes, I basically need to get this character to understand that he is this demon craftsman, which, by the way, that's why I said demon lord, or like a very powerful variant of a demon, is this kind of thing. Otherwise, I wanted him to be really strong to kind of counter the lack of strength in every other medium when it comes to craftsmen. But I also wanted to neutralize it a touch. So again, if he was like he was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna bring these goofy guns with my demon costume. It kind of goes against the character because I don't want him to be too into Halloween. But anyways, say he does that. Well, this is bad because now he has a crazy good power bump. So where he's basically just as strong as our main character, which I don't want right now. Because I need them to depend on each other, and Crowley doesn't depend on anybody. So I need there to be a way for him to basically be like, all right, I need you right now, kind of mentality. So a good way to do that was, of course, to say, okay, well, he's powerful, but the thing that he powers up is not very good right now, and you need like a couple things to make it really good. Also, I'm not sure, but I think I mentioned it. Yes. I really liked, there's a show I'm currently watching. It's an anime has a really rough couple episodes, and the CGI is bad, and some of the things it handles is a bit creepy and gross, but it has a really cool perception of basically in certain tropes within MMOs and in video games. For instance, Shield Hero, again, I mentioned that, addressed it, where the Shield Hero is the Shield Defender, whatever you want to call it, is the like least picked class out of any MMO. And it kind of like, okay, well, let's try to make that fun. How can we power up the Shield dude to be like a really powerful and endearing character? Cool, kind of a challenge and something like that. But I watched another show recently called Afrieta Commonplace to World's Strongest, I believe is what it's called. It's got a lot of criticism, justifiably criticized. But I really love the parts in that show where he is crafting, and it's basically this dude who's just this amazing craftsman who ends up making these, like, he makes a chain gun in a fantasy world, and this chain gun could just chew through monsters, and it kind of goes against that class where it's like, oh, I can craft a special gem that gives me 20% more health, yippee, and it's kind of just underwhelming, whereas this character can make a fucking chain gun that can annihilate things. So to me, I really like that power structure. But for right now, he has two giant limiters, and this is something that he kind of addresses, and we'll get to when we're progressing. But I just want to tell you, we're on the topic right now, might as well go into Crowley's kind of powers. As a craftsman, he has two things that are really, really bad. He needs materials. That's a big thing. That's probably the biggest thing, is that in order to craft anything, a craftsman needs materials. And how you get materials is by finding components, or like going into, like, smashing a rock with a mine and finding the specific ore. It's a big problem. And then the other thing is having the momentum to get enough experience to where you can get that ball rolling. But it's incredibly hard because you as a craftsman who I mean, I guess it's possible, but it would take like a week for you to get the materials you need to make a competent weapon, and then slowly fight enemies that are in your wheelhouse. Where, as say there's a cheat sheet, little werewolf lich, who's kind of helping you along your way, you can accelerate greatly. But yeah, and I guess I should go into that as well. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, sure. Why not? Because we're not going to jump into where they're going just yet. Anyways, so yes, the way the power structure works right now is Demon Boy, super pretty strong. Let's word it differently. His potential is insanely strong, but him right there, kind of just like a human with general buffs. Like, he can heal really quickly within a certain parameter. That's his healing thing, is like, if he gets wrecked, he's gonna stay erect. But if it's in this wheelhouse of like a scratch, a cut, something that's reasonable, a sickness, like, a common cold, he doesn't get sick anymore. But if you get like slashed in the chest, it exceeds a certain threshold of healing, so he can't heal through that. But our Wolf Boy can heal through basically anything. It's one of the only things I think werewolves have on vampires. Whereas, I think werewolves should have an insane regen, whereas maybe vampires have a little bit more resistance. But wolves can heal from basically anything. I really like that aspect of it, of wolf lore, mythos that's in general social norms in terms of monster isms. Anyways, yeah. So, Crowley's pretty good, but he has a lot of potential, but he's kind of weak right now. Now let's talk about our main character. And I say main character because he's kind of the perception we'll stay in. They're both main characters, but we kind of anchor ourselves to seeing the world through this character's perception. Anyways, so we have, and I had to, this is what I meant by I have to rescale some things, because I kind of messed up. Right now, the wolf is just a common wolf that got affected by the necromancy's dark affinity. For dark magic. So essentially he would have been a normal colored wolf, but because his necromancer person, or lich, sorry, his affinity is dark, or is dark magic or whatever, it has infected the wolf to be basically this tar black, super dark fur kind of wolf, but the werewolf is kind of just good. Again, it's still the best, it's best in context of these variants, like how we got little baby person that can just transform into a dog, kind of cool, but just not that great. Anyone can kind of be this, like, without any struggle. And then there's the other one, which is basically like a human wolf hybrid, sure, like a teen wolf or that whole vibe, pretty good. But then there's the one that is real strong, which is the full-blown werewolf transformation that I really love in movies. But he's not like insane. He's not like alpha werewolf something, which has that prefix which makes him super strong. So the wolf is pretty strong, but still pretty weak. I'd say he's on the same level as the demon right now, maybe a little bit higher. If there was like a demon gunslinger, he'd be on that same kind of realm. Crowley is the exception because he's not. He hasn't a kind of a defensive ability, which is crafting, which can be offensive. But yeah. Anyways, semantics. But the other thing that he is, the lich, and I kind of want to wait to tell you guys and I've been so there's a reason why I wasn't like there's this. I think I might have let it slip actually in one of the parts. But he is a specific kind of lich. And we'll say lich, I say necromancer, but what I mean is lich. But he's the blank lich. And we're going to get into that when he gets one of his artifacts. And he starts using that kind of power. But also, another thing to consider is our main character hasn't got the chance to actually look at his skill tree, I guess. But anyways, let's get back to the story that we're trying to tell. Cool. All right. Sorry, just a lot of busy work that needed to be kind of tidied up. All right. So yes, our main characters at this point, they've kind of confide in one another about how crazy everything is going on. Demon dudes told him about he was trying to do a nice thing and save this woman, but then she tripped his ass and ran for safety, which again is me kind of playing with that whole flight or flight thing. Like, just because you save someone doesn't mean they have a savior in them as well. They might just be like, I just need to survive. Oh God, I don't want to die any more than I was about to back then, you know? Anyways, so our main character is like, that's so fucked up. What a rude person. This is wrong and all these things. And the dude's like, yeah, I can't believe it's bullshit. What a fucking horrible person. And of course he goes through the whole thing where, again, we kind of touched upon it last time, but how Crowley kind of helps him narrow in on the fact that, okay, well, if you say you're an undead, but yet you have a heartbeat, and when you've seen the moon you kind of blacked out, and then you arrived at a location. It seems like you have the common trope that is a werewolf thing. So he kind of helps narrow in on that. And again, our main character kind of was like, oh God, no. And then Crowley's like, it's okay, man, putting his hand on his shoulder, like, hey, you could be worse things, like a shitty craftsman demon or whatever, I'm useless, kind of thing. And then our character takes his hands off his face, and he just has a giant shit-eating grin, because he's like, that's so fucking cool. Anyways, and another thing that I kind of wanted to mention is, again, Crowley broke his phone when he fell, when he got knocked back in the hallway. And then the one cat person was like, ah. That's also something I kind of want to go back and change, because I feel like that was a bit that didn't make sense. Like, for Crowley to fight his way out of the room, and then for him to basically just be like, let's walk right back in there. It would have made more sense that, like, a certain group of people was like, fuck this, and they found safe haven in another classroom or something, and we're like, what's going on? Let's just leave. Let's try to get to the hospital. And then they make their way out of the school, and then that's how it goes. That to me would make more sense through, like, not just like backtracking through what you just did. Anyways, sorry, bit scattered, but yes, Crowley has his phone, and again, it's broken. So he realizes that, okay, well, maybe I have the prefix of a craftsman. So then he closes his eyes and he tries to think of anything that he has an understanding of how to build. So then he closes his eyes, and boom, he creates this kind of torch, this kind of like just a lighter torch kind of thing, like you light cigarettes, but it's like a heavy duty torch. I'm sure you guys have seen them in like shitty convenience stores and stuff like that. And then he comes to a realization of, okay, that's what it's being funneled down, except he can tell that he can't make much more than that. So he's kind of like, fuck, and he feels really depressed, because all around him, by the way, havoc has been going on around the city. You know, you can see a person who lifts up a car, a person that's just a towering Jason Voorhees, etc., etc., etc. There's Beastman that seemed really tall and powerful, and he's like, I'm just this shit. And then whilst Crowley is kind of like what is the word, sulking, kind of like this is just a fucking mess. Our main character is kind of thinking like he seems to be really down on his luck, and I don't really know, and hey, I actually told him what I was, and he didn't seem to really care either. And at this point, the character kind of has this moment of, well, now I have to make a choice. You know, do I just say chin up and leave, or do I want to help this person? And of course, our main character is like, I want to help this person, but not because he has anything to gain. It's because our character really, really likes monsters and wants to see what his monster becomes, but also because, again, we'll get to this, but there's a part of him that really likes piecing people back together. And I haven't really come up with what that is in his backstory that gives him that desire, but I want that to be a trait that he has, is wanting to piece someone back together, kind of thing. And that's kind of the way he attains people around him. Because basically, yeah, we're not going to get into that just yet. Okay, sorry. I'm a bit, yeah. We'll get to that. We'll get to that point. Me, calm down. And now finally, we're able to go off to the races, because again, the main character is like, okay, well, I don't know if it works the same way for you, but I couldn't see why it wouldn't. I woke up, and he explains his circumstance, and he explains that he found this weird, you know, green gem kind of thing, which is basically like something that he, just to spoil some stuff, it's something that he hangs from his belt, which is his necromancer kind of grimoire, which he can't move, or a relic, or whatever you want to call it. But anyways, he goes ahead and shows it to Crowley and says, you know, look, this is what it is, and Crowley can't see shit because it's embedded to him. It's his relic. So when he explains to him what he sees, and he starts listing off things that he has, and he's like, well, oh, apparently I can do this and this and this. And then Crowley's like, well, are you just finding this out now? And he's like, yeah, it was just I wanted to get out of there. It was a creep show, and etc. He basically tells him that he didn't have time, or every chance that he got squandered, basically, for him to get a moment to look at this relic. And then Crowley's like, man, if I had that, like that would give me a chance, kind of thing. And he kind of slumps down again, like, okay, well, I need to get that, but I don't know where to start, and kind of hopeless like that. And then our main character kind of looks over, speaks up, and says, all right, well, let's get you one. Let's go find one. What else? What else is there to do? Sit here, do nothing? Yeah, like we need to move. If anything, some fucking monster's gonna come rip our face off. We're just sitting on the damn road like morons. Anyways, and then Crowley kind of takes a minute and he's like, okay, like maybe this is something I can bank on, even though I got kind of shit on. At the very least, we go get a relic and then I leave, like, you know, so another person doesn't trip me, that fucking bitch, or whatever. I really don't want to make Crowley an incel or some shit, but I just felt like it was one of those moments again to point out that just because you save someone does not mean that they will save you. Fight or flight can be a powerful and destructive thing. And yeah, especially when you're on the verge of dying, like you're like, oh, I'm about to be torn apart by this beast man. And then, of course, someone, like, pulls you out of the rubble, and you're like, yeah, now let's fight him together, and not be like, I just want to survive now that I have a chance, and you dip out. Okay, so now let's explain our bullet points, because we've essentially done that. Again, these are the things that I want to explain so much, and the reason why I repeat myself so much is these kinds of, like, interactions are, like, almost 100%, if I were to ever write a story about this, I would go back and like really flush it out and give each character personality, like keep Crowley kind of this like jokey kind of flowy kind of person, and keep our main character that really like giddy happy about monsters kind of vibe as well. But yes, for the time being, we're just trying to hit these bullet points and get to our destination. There's no more bullet points. Whenever I drink water, my heat just like skyrockets, and it's not good. Anyways, so bullet points that we need to hit is, okay, so we need to get Crowley his relic. That's the main thing. We also need to establish that there are monsters in this place, this location. Honestly, I haven't given much thought to what location Crowley's relic should be held in, nor did I give much thought to how our main character's relic is held in. I just know it's kind of like a place, like a house, something in the woods, that kind of thing. Anyways, so yes, we need to get Crowley his relic. This is we'll get to it, but yes, get his relic. Then we need to have our main character experience the wolf whilst he is progressing through that environment. Cool. And the third thing is for our main character to get his final relic, or not final relic, but the relic that unlocks the wolf. These two things play into each other. The first, the wolf freaking out, and then him needing that relic. Anyways, the third thing is Crowley getting his fourth relic. And at this point, it basically went Lich, Crowley, Wolf getting his, and then it's getting passive buffs to all of these. So basically, we need to get all of our people the base relic to unlock their skill tree, their understanding for their monster. And then it starts getting fun, because we've done the busy work, but we got to really push through this busy work to get that shit done. So that's why I think this is more than any will be the ones where I'm like, and they get it, and they get it. Because my thing that I really enjoy is giving them like this special relic that gives them a tremendous upper hand. And that's what all the relics are. They're not like, you get a shield that will get redundant really fast. It's like, no, you get this thing that gives you a hell of an edge in the world that you're about to kind of be born into, which we'll get into about that as well. Anyway, sorry. As they're starting to walk down the road, Crowley says, okay, well, how did you get to yours? Like, do you remember anything from when you woke up to that in that location or whatever? Like, how did you find this relic? And then the main character says, I don't know. Honestly, if I was some sort of whatever, he found it. And I don't know, maybe there's a smell, a scent, something that pulls them towards it. And yeah, let's do that. They start bickering kind of back and forth of like, well, why did you know where it is? I don't know where it is. I was fucking under. Well, what are you? I don't know what I am. What kind of were thing I am? It could be a bear. It could be anything. And then eventually, Crowley looks up and with like, yeah, sure, he has his hands on his head. He's kind of like, what the fuck is going on? And then he looks up, and lo and behold, he has this very creepy, ominous house right in front of him. And our main character's like, well, this is giving me real bad vibes. This is a creepy ass house. Let's leave. And Crowley's like, well, wait, no. We need to go in. Like, let's go in. There's something I want to go in. Like, it's this thing. It's pulling him that way. So anyways, they open this gate, and of course, to paint you guys somewhat of a picture, I see this house having this single pathway, and it's kind of a weird shaped house. Like, say it's left heavy, like the left hand side of it's built up, and the right hand side's kind of dwindled, but there's a door right in the center. Center? What the fuck? And of course, they proceed through. Begrudgingly and fearful as they may be, they do so. And yes, they enter into this house, and we're going to start jumping a little farther. They enter into the house. It is as ornate and old as you can possibly imagine. Looks like it's out of the 21st century, sure. Anyways, as they start progressing through the living room, they hear a bunch of pitter-patter up topside in the roof above them. And of course, they're both freaked out, but our main character is pretty freaked out and is like, maybe we should leave. And as they start progressing higher up the stairs, the house kind of changes. So that it used to be kind of like furnished, and now it's way more stone and like metal bars and stuff like that. So again, our main character is starting to progress. And as they're making their way through the stairs in the top part of the house, again, just going wherever Crowley wants to go, kind of around them, it's very much stone and steel. Like black steel, kind of playing off of, like, you know, a black fence, like a steel fence that's black, has poles and like a line of tie, yeah, that kind of thing, like that kind of general feel all over the place. And it starts getting way more gross and hellish, because as they start progressing more and more through the top part of the house, they start seeing these stone kind of like demon-looking people, like people with crazy horns, and all these things. But they're stone; they're not moving. But it's giving off creepy vibes, and even both characters are feeling that thing in them, that wolf or that necromancer lich, that demon saying, not good, not good, bad vibes, bad vibes. And of course, as they start making their way through the thing, they end up in this room. And this room is quite long, and it's absurdly big. Like, it shouldn't rightfully be this big. This house shouldn't be this big. But of course, there is this crazy, what do you call it? The way I see it is this giant, super abstract kind of cement, concrete formed thing. And it's like this tube coming up from the ground, along with the back wall being covered in this weird, abstract thing that kind of gives off the vibes of like hands, and like claws, and like just these weird shapes that look unnerving. But there's this obelisk in the center, or right in front of that, and it has these hands gripping around this singular ring. So Crowley starts to make his way towards it, and at this point, the main character's turning around, looking at all these weird designs all over the room. And as he's looking around, he hears a giant thud, and then he looks back and he sees that Crowley has gotten pincered by this stone-looking demon thing. And of course, we're getting off that. This house's, or this relic's, safeguard. They are these stone kind of golem-looking things that move very slowly, but they hold a lot of force. Because they are rock. And sure, let's do that. Let's say that they're like an amalgamation. So like they have stone hands, but also some sort of flesh is bleeding through. So maybe they're like their face starts crumbling, and you can see some actual skin there and some actual skin there. And maybe their horn, the cement crumbles off the horn, but the horn is still there. That kind of thing. So Crowley's getting pincered. And our main character is kind of like, oh shit, I kind of would like to do like a stop time motion here, and the main character being like, fuck, I didn't know this. Like, first of all, it was not this creepy for me. Secondly, there was no enemies by mine. And then he stops and he thinks, wait, but if I was a were person that went there, my werewolf, or whatever my were monster, would have killed everything in the surrounding area. And he's like, well, shit. Well, I should have still seen corpses or something. But we'll get to that. Why he didn't see anything. Basically, undead just disintegrate and don't leave any remnant behind. Because you can't get more dead than an undead besides completely being pushed out of existence. Anyways, moving on. So as Crowley's being pinned to the ground, another stone person jumps off the pedestal and starts making his way to the main character. And as it's starting to approach him, the main character kind of freaks out and gets stunned. Ooh, now how do you want to handle this? okay, let's say this. I'm not sure if it's something that this is something that I want to go back and get to, because I think it could be a lot better. Kind of making this part up on the spot too. Again, I only know the beats we're hitting, not necessarily the thing we're building in between. But sure, let's say that the main character kind of puts his hands up, kind of like don't come at me kind of thing, and then the stone demon, let's call them that, he grabs his hand, and then on instinct he pulls back and completely shatters this the stone golem's hand, like completely off by the what do you call it, the joint of the elbow. Boom, pops it right off. And his hand instinctively comes back and counter punches with his right. So basically, stay away from me, grab, break, punch. Kind of like that, like just quick, really quickly and fast. And the reason what we're getting at right here, I talked about it in the past, but because we're playing with this weird kind of rule, basically that if you have a latent DNA of a monster that existed way in the past, like in the days of knights and kings and all these things, where I would feel like is a pretty good time period for some werewolves and ghouls and whatever to exist, but them to have long since purged from the world. But their DNA still lasts or exists within the people that they were with, or whatever kind of thing you want. Maybe they I don't know, vampire was just like, I'm gonna put some vampire stuff in this pot and throw it into the water, and whoever drinks it gets fucking vampirism or something. But it wasn't strong enough to actually make them vampires, but it just stayed in their DNA. And then, of course, when this event happens, when this triggered this event, it waked up that DNA too. And that's how we have hybrids. So with this rule implied, I thought, okay, well, not only is this a good way to kind of take our Joe Schmo character and keep him kind of Joe Schmo, like he's just kind of a normal guy. He wasn't a guy who like practiced UFC every day and got hardened and like battle ready, because that kind of goes against his insular nature and loving monsters. I wanted him to be kind of like him to be like an encyclopedia of monsters, and to love them. But does not have like much combat experience. So I'm like, okay, well, unless we want our main character to get dunked on, how do we counter this? Well, we can counter this by having that idea already seeded, which is, okay, well, say you're inheriting this DNA and if with our main character, there was a long, way back in his bloodline, there was this badass, we could go Viking, we could go Native American, berserker, and of course he was a werewolf. But because he inherited that DNA, he also inherited some of the combat experience of that person. Now this to me is really cool because later down the line we'll meet a character that is essentially all in to inherited ability. So they never were a monster, they never dress up as a monster, but they did have that DNA in them, and the person that had that was in their lineage, their thing, was amazing at swordsmanship and was just like the best, and they got all of that because they didn't have anything like messing with that. They get almost all of the combat ability of that old ancestor. But we're not getting there just yet. But this is kind of what we're playing with right now. And then this is the other thing we're going to play with. The main character's like, okay. Like, he doesn't know how he did it, but he kind of is like, okay, we're in this moment of combat. And if any of you guys have ever been in a situation where you're like, like a fight's breaking out, you feel like, I don't know, I feel like movies do a really bad job about it, where they're like, oh my god, combat, when that's most likely not how anything goes. Even if you're backed up against a wall and you're a person that wants to survive or live, you still feel this like heat and this desire like to chew through what's in front of you kind of thing, or just to survive, to fight back, to live. So of course our character does that, punches this of course, by the way, we're also playing with the idea of the wolf being just kind of having these insane bursts of strength, which is what we'll get to right after this. So again, punches the stone demon right in the face, and at this point, there's another golem, let's say 2 golems, drop right back down, as of like, oh, fuck, okay, you took one of us out, let's like start going at you. So then 2 golems jump at the bottom, and okay, now let's stop because it's got a werewolf boy against 2 golems. Sure, let's pause. Jump back to Crowley. Crowley's on the ground, getting almost strangled. So then he reaches into his pocket and he grabs that little lighter thing, little kind of torch, and he sees that the thing that's strangling him has like flesh almost. Like again, the horn broke off. Basically, picture a golem stone demon face strangling him, but the horn broke off and is actually an actual looking horn, and then a side of his cheek is exposed as like a real, like what looks to be real flesh. So then Crowley grabs his lighter and fucking starts burning the one thing's face, and then it grabs his hand, and Crowley kind of shifts momentum and backs up. And at this point, I want Crowley to be in such stress and disarray that he falls back onto what he is, which is this kind of like, in chaos, he jokes around, or he's just kind of this weird sense of calm as well. So at this point, instead of screaming in terror, he just starts bitching at the one character, the werewolf dude, and he's like, You didn't say that there would be any enemies. This is bullshit. What's going on? And then the wolf dude being like, I'm kind of busy, but I also don't know what's going on. It makes more sense that the wolf ate whatever was there before I woke up. Anyways, there's a lot going on and all these things. So then Crowley stands up after they're done having this little exchange, and the stone person turns to Crowley as to get him. So now let's go back to our wolf boy. Again, he's kind of freaking out. He doesn't know what to do. He's holding his hands in some sort of actual fighting stance. It's like, all right. So he doesn't really know what to do, but he's like, okay, I just gotta hit you. I just gotta hit you like I did the other person. And at this point, they're fairly far away. Let's say it's a hallway. His interaction happened at the very beginning of the hallway, and then the two people drop down, which were closer to the relic. Let's say that. So he has got this pretty good gap of space in between these people. Anyways, so he's like, okay, I gotta make my way over to you and hit you. So then he takes a step. And again, this is a first for him, because he basically is quantifying everything around him. Like, okay, I brought this dude here. I told him this was this. I have to help him. I was the asshole who brought him in here, like he said. I don't want to, run or anything like that. Anyways, so he's like, all right, I gotta own the situation and take responsibility for it. So then he takes a step forward, but then, boom, like lightning fast, he finds himself like right over top of one of the golems that pushed a little bit more forward from the other one. And he sees himself just like there immediately, and he kind of is like, whoa. And he kind of on reflex just punches him, because that was always his intent, but he had no idea how quickly he got there. But also, while he made that jump, he heard this like very deep guttural kind of growl within his head, like this like with this burst of this growl, with every time when he just found himself there. And then when he went to punch, and he cracks his hand against this marble of this monster's face, he hears that same kind of growl, like this visceral punch. But unlike the last time where he kind of just punched him and he cracked his face and crumbled to the ground, this time he punches him and completely obliterates the front part of his face. What I'm getting at is the wolf, and I kind of want this to be the strength, because there's the people that can turn into wolves, which is kind of as good to being secretive and like stealthy. Then there's the werewolves who can turn, like basically remain a human being for the most part, but get like 30% animal. Sure. So they have really good self-awareness, but also a little bit more strength. Cool. Then we have werewolves, and werewolves have the whole catalyst of, okay, well, you can turn into like basically 90% wolf, but you have like very little control. But in this instance, our main character is getting closer to understanding a kind of a workaround for his transformation, which is in a burst, he can summon forth that insane strength, but then turn it off. So he like starts the engine, turns it off before it has a chance of overwhelming him, which is what we're kind of getting at right now. So basically, he has like, if you were playing a video game, and this is where I came up with this stupid thing, you'd have like 4 bars. When every time and if you gotta really not get close to using that 4th bar, because that 4th bar puts you in danger land, where you could actually just summon into a berserker. As our boy just smashes the one dude into pieces, the other golem takes a step back, and the golem that was like stood up and was about to go for Crowley again, the one that was strangling him, that burned his face, hears that like explosion and starts making his way towards the much greater threat. So Crowley realizes he has a moment of time, and he realizes, like, should I go for the ring and like leave, or like, should I help to some extent? And at this point, I want, if I was writing a story, I would go into like what he's thinking, and the idea is, like, why would I help him? People leave each other all the time. Like, this is like why was I even mad at that one person, that girl for leaving me? Of course she wants to survive. And he's basically coming to the deduction of like, it's okay to survive. Like, of course people want to survive. I want to right now. I want to get to what I want and leave. But at the same time, he also like understands what it felt to be completely to what the cause is of you just being selfish like that and surviving. So he's kind of like, shit. And one of the things I didn't really mention is, yes, there's a bunch of these like kind of again, I kind of want you to paint the picture, because I see in my head, if I were to paint the picture entirely, I see this hallway with red kind kind of like this red wallpaper, maybe more like engraved with more high quality things. And of course there are these golem statues, and of course there are those candles that are like nostalgic Halloween kind of creepy candles, which are like these black things with these 4-prong kind of things that are holding candles. So anyways, instead of Crawley just like fucking leaving or grabbing the ring and leaving, our main character starts backing up like, oh shit. But also our main character is feeling kind of like this weird thing eat away at him, like this thing bite at his neck kind of shit. So he starts backing up because he starts to get dizzy, and he's like, okay, as much as that was awesome, like I can't believe I did that, shit's starting to feel weird. Anyways, Crowley's like grabs what is it called, the candle holder, like the 3-prong candle holder, and he goes to run at the person that he was fighting, and as he's about to like stab it into her, because she is, or yeah, sure, it's a female demon that was trying to strangle him or something. Anyways, he goes to like stab her with this fire thing, and her back's turned, so he has a really good opening. And as he goes to do it, he thinks of how ironic it is that he's holding like this thing that looks like a devil pitchfork, and he's coming to stab someone as a demon. So he has that thought in his head, and as he has that thought, the thing itself changes and morphs into actually this 3-pronged spear. So he, instead of just like hitting her with some blunt nature, instead he fully impales it into her back, and he's like, okay. So then she, boom, falls to the ground. And then the one golem that was following our main character turns around, and then our wolf dude comes right behind him and completely breaks his whole head off of his body like concrete, and just completely cracks it and drops. And sure, let's say that he completely busts it, and like concrete and like bullshit marble splatter on his face, and he's just like, okay. He's like, did I just kill people? Do we just murder some fucking people, or is it okay? Is it okay or is it wrong? I don't know. And I don't know, it could be a cute moment in a book where he's like as if he were to like blood splatter basically on his face, like, oh no. And this one didn't have the wolf behind it, because he has just innately better strength because of the wolf and all these things. We'll get to the necromancer at certain points. And for people who are like, you're really painting this wolf thing, and the necromancer is kind of just hanging out. Well, there's a reason why that is the case. Because of the prefix that he gave, he's not mentally there yet. Yeah. Anyways, so at this point they've done it. They've completed the encounter. So he goes and wipes away this rubble off of him. And sure, let's say Crowley says, "You're right there." Like, that was quite a lot. Anyways, shall we? And they both kind of saunter up to this totem or this podium thing, and Crowley goes to reach for it, and he goes, like, kind of like hesitates, almost like this is something gonna happen again? And then our main character puts his hand on his shoulder as like, go for it, kind of thing. Anyways, Crowley goes and picks up the ring and puts it on. And as he puts it on, he feels like this serenity kind of hit him, like this kind of thing. And he opens his palm, and he just looks at his palm. And the main character is kind of just like, is this how I look when it happens? And he's like, did you find what you need? Kind of thing. Like, are we good? Do you have some understanding now? And he's like, yeah. And he goes to explain his whole demon thing. Like, oh, I can apparently craft this. Oh, but I need this material. Okay. But apparently I can craft anything at an instant. So it doesn't need to be this. I just need to have it in my head and have the understanding of how to make it. And then he says most of his skill tree is basically finding out like blueprints, so he can have a better understanding of how to create things. But for right now, he's limited greatly. He's like, okay, well, I can only create something within a certain amount. Also, I need a certain amount of materials to actually craft that thing. So he's like, okay, shit, kind of stuck to a degree. Like he finds out like, oh, I know what I am, I know what I could be, I know what I could create, but I'm limited heavily by resources. And of course, it's like you need to have this much iron, this much metal, and all these things. So yeah, I think it'd be cool to have him in this emotional state to be like, yeah, I know what I am, I'm this, and then he lists off the demon that he is and the things that he can do, but then he's anchored by, but I can't create anything yet. I need, and he sees the list of all the things he needs, and he's like, I can't get that. I can get this specific kind of iron. What the hell? As he's kind of venting and like confused about what exactly is going on, he hears this thud, boom, and he looks over and he sees that our wolf dude is fully on the ground, cupping his chest. So let's say that. and he notices that he's wearing a t-shirt, so he notices that these black veins are climbing up his face, and Crowley takes a step back and he's like, "You okay, man? Like, what's going on?" And then our main character starts laughing, and he's like, yeah, definitely a wolf or something kind of thing. And then our main character says, "I don't know, I just feel it feels mad. It feels really left behind and mad." And then our character stops gripping his chest and punches straight through the wooden floor, like it was nothing. And then takes a deep breath, and the things retract back into his neck, but he's like, "Oh," and then he kind of falls back and sits on his ass, and he's like, okay, like, and he's kind of shell-shocked because he was about to do it. And what we're getting at here is the wolf feels very pissed because he feels a bit cheated. He's like, "Motherfucker, I was the only reason why you lived through that encounter, and you have been giving me the cold shoulder, and it's not okay." It's some bullshit. Also, you helped get this person his relic, but I still don't have mine. I feel like this is some bullshit. So that's kind of his wolf's perception of everything, and that's why he's like pushing back, like, whoa, what the hell? That wasn't even mine. I thought we were going to get mine. This is stupid. I know it's kind of silly, but to me, I think it'd be a good way of representing, because that's the thing. I want our character to basically, they're different entities, and this kind of brings me to where, like, way down the line, when we ever do want to do an arc where it is becoming a true hybrid, like a wolf mixed with a lich or necromancer kind of thing, bone. It could happen. But that's why the wolf is basically his own kind of entity. And the necromancer is also its kind of own entity. Births when Hell Night happened. But all they know is like they're on this guy's team, so they want to keep this person alive because it enables both of them. But they are different entities, where there's some monsters that are very much just like them, whereas these kind of things are kind of different. Like there's the wolf, and then there's the main character, kind of, that kind of thing. Anyways, so Crowley sees this. He asks if he's okay, if there's anything he can do, and the main character says, "I think it wants its relic, because right now I only have the lich's relic, but it's telling me that it wants its." And then sure, let's make the Crowley a little bit more sense, make more sense. So Crowley turns around, he's like I still am not at a point where I can really survive. Like I can't create anything unless I want to go mine for an hour. I'm still not at that point. And maybe he sees in a skill tree that there's a certain amount of skills that where he can start playing around with something, like, oh, I can make this really strong looking gun, but I need to get to that point yet. And that's another thing that he's limited by is blueprints, basically. So he sees that and he's like, okay, well, I'm not quite there yet, so I'm better banking on this person, because I would like him to be somewhat of a strategist as well. Whereas our main character is not. Main character's just like, I will chew through whatever's in front of me. He's like, all right, well, let's come up with a plan in the back works just in case you die. Anyways, so at this point, it commences the next thing, which is our wolf boy getting his power, or getting his totem or his relic, whatever it is, his thing that decodes what he is and gives you kind of like a face-forward example of that. But yeah, also with him, the way we handle his relic is different, especially with his wolf one. Because to me, I've thought a great deal about the whole werewolf thing. Some would say it's my favorite like monster, even though it's like there's like nightmare shit about werewolves too, like the transformation being the most painful thing on the planet, which is why our character circumnavigated that. But anyways, I did not expect this to take that long, although we did spend some time doing some busy work, just kind of tidying up stuff that happened in the past. I really didn't want, I really didn't want to make another part. Sure, let's make 4 podcasts, and then we'll get them all out, and then I'll stop. But the reason why is because I really do want to get to the point where we can start getting their other relics. Because I think that's really important. But Demon Dude's relic is basically this ring. There's this ring with a red gem in it. I should have mentioned more about what it looked like. But yeah, how he also sees his skills is he just opens up his palm. I guess it's the same thing with our main character, how he just holds up his rock and it shows this skill tree. And sure, let's do that. Let's not make it so just no one can see what you're using. Let's say the ring glows red a touch when he's looking at his inventory, and the main character's rock glows a slight bit red when he's looking into his skill tree and stuff like that. Just so there's some, you're not just looking at this stupid object. People are like, is he an idiot? I don't know, maybe. But anyways, this brings us on our next choice, where basically Crowley says, yes, I'll help you. You know, it's sure, let's do that instead. Let's say Crowley's like, okay, so is this what we're doing? You, me, you, that kind of thing. Like, you know, we'll go get your relic, and then we'll go get more of my relics. And sure, let's say that. Let's say that as soon as they get the ring, Crowley really feels that there are other things that he could go get. And the main character looks up and he's like, definitely. And then he gives him a hand, picks him up. They make their way out of the house. Boom, they're ready to go get our wolf boy his relic. And yes, in the next part we're going to be getting, well, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe this is just, I don't know, maybe I'm talking shit, because maybe I'm like, okay, well, we can get Wolf Boy's relic pretty quick. Yeah, spoiler, we can't. Main character's relic really quick, because of this and that. Who knows? Because yeah, that was a lot for me, by the way, because again, I never really thought about how the level. I knew what the outcome would be. I knew what kind of beats I wanted to hit. Like, again, I wanted our main character to kind of feel the wolf whenever he punched, and to see the power difference when he kind of turns that on for a split second and then turns it off. Also, I think that'd be a cool way of doing kind of still utilizing his werewolf kind of transformation thing, where he can turn on and turn off in a split second and still stay somewhat sane. But also attain the ridiculous ferocity of that. And then, dude, we're gonna go get his relic, get Wolf Boy relic, go get Crowley the key to his sanity, basically his relic, and then the third thing is the Lich's arc, and that's where shit can get kind of stupid. And we're gonna deal with like, oh, yeah, we're touching on like some stupid power kind of mentality, because yeah, but yes. And we'll also, again, I should address one more thing before we end it. Some of you guys may be like, well, what the heck? You know, Crowley is looking at his skill tree, and, you know, let's say he bought something. Let's say he unlocks some skills, and whereas our main character doesn't. There's a reason why he doesn't. So it's not just like, you know, the main character got his relic first, and he hasn't like unlocked any special things yet. What's going on with that, Grin? Is he not? Is he stupid? No, he's playing with one thing that I feel like is his true power out of all of the things. It's his one thing where, like, sometimes in like isekai things or whatever kind of show, they'll be like, well, he played video games all day, so he knows all of the cooldowns, and he's a master at it. And I'm kind of just like, okay, right, sure. Whereas our character has something that he does whenever he played video games that is like crucial in this world, especially with, yeah, and it's something that I do, of course, so I'm projecting on this a little bit. Some of you guys may be able to tell what his leg up in this world is when it comes to skills and all that stuff. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for hearing me ramble. I think I'll make one right after this, and I think I don't know, that's when I'll take a break, and I'll make sure I get at least 2 or 3 episodes out before I continue this story. But yes, that is the world of Relics that we're getting into. That is kind of like the weird level-based / scene arcs kind of thing. We're gonna go get our wolf boy his werewolf totem next, I guess. And yes, hopefully it'll be a bang up time. Hopefully you guys will again be telling me in the comments what you would have done differently, what you've seen, because that's something I'm also trying to do. Is there are moments where I would like to paint a picture, but other moments where I kind of just want to leave things up in the air, so you guys and your imagination can kind of just fill in the space. And yeah. But that's why I try to like give you some descriptors, so you have somewhere where it's going, but not the specific, so your brain can kind of make up where it wants to go. But anyways, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your time. Here's a subscribe button right over there, as well as 2 videos to my far right. Thank you so much for your time again, and goodbye.